So firstly, I feel like a little bit of a fraud here. Firstly, I'm a last-minute stand-in for my far more interesting friend who wasn't able to make it tonight. Secondly, as Helen was saying, I'm not actually a scientist, I'm a television producer. Though I did study science at university, I studied pharmacology at Cambridge, and then decided I'd make TV programs instead of making drugs. Though I have once used my expertise, the only time I've ever used my degree in my job, which was on the Channel 4 Drugs Live show earlier this year, where I made Jon Snow smoke hash and go in an MRI machine. So that is the only pharmacology I've done in 12 years of science television. And what I'm doing now, which is extremely exciting, is I'm now the series producer on the Royal Institution Christmas Lectures, which is this year about how to survive in space. So I'm totally loving my job right now. So what I was going to talk to you about was how we make invisible science concepts visible for TV. Now, obviously, in feature films, they have an awful lot of money, huge amounts of money, where you can basically visualize anything you can imagine these days. In science educational programs, we don't have very much money. But what we have discovered is that often, if you go back to the real data, the real science, the real imagery, you can come up with some CGI which is not only tells you something interesting, but can be as stunning as something that you came up with out of your imagination. So, firstly, I was going to tell you about Britain from Above, which was a series I worked on back in 2008 with Andrew Marr. And what we were trying to do on that was sort of visualize the hidden patterns of Britain. So our kind of hidden infrastructure, how we move, how we behave, and we wanted a way to visualize that. And so what we did was we collected together data from all sorts of organizations. So we went to London taxi companies to get their GPS traces. We got the logs of every landline phone call that was made in a day. We tracked every truck that went through the country in a day. We tracked all of the ships through the English Channel for a day, and you could see how the way that they don't crash, basically, where the big ships go one way, the other ones go the other way, and the little ferries would kind of dodge in between. So this was what we did we went to the National Air Traffic Control and got the GPS traces for every plane that travels over Britain in a day, and this was how it turned out. Yes.
Every day, more than 7,500 aircraft crowd into Britain's skies, carrying more than 500,000 passengers from every corner of this little green planet. These are the GPS traces of every single plane entering British airspace over 24 hours. And they're all following their own secret motorway system up in the sky. Strictly laid out routes that run north and south up and down the country, and out over Europe and the Atlantic. And dotted around the country, there are stacking systems, roundabouts in the sky, where they circle waiting to land at one of our 7 major airports.
So, that was Britain from Above. Then last year I worked on a series called Strip the Cosmos, where we were trying to look at all different objects in the universe, basically, and visualize them and pull them apart and look what's inside them, supposedly. And obviously we don't know that, but what we did to try and get our information for what that might look like and even what that might sound like was we went to real scientists who were trying to find this stuff out. So in the episode about the sun, we looked at the imagery from the Solar Dynamics Observatory, which is a satellite which is 22,000 miles in geostationary orbit over the Pacific, I believe, and it's measuring the sun in 10 different wavelengths, and it's taking magnetic data. So we took the imagery from that to kind of give our graphics guys a reference for what that ought to look like. And then we spoke to the scientists who are analysing that data to give us their best possible guess of what the inside of the sun might look like and even what it might sound like. And this was what we ended up with. And so see if you can spot there are
90
times where we
million
use
miles
the real
from planet
imagery
Earth.
from the
A
satellite.
cosmic powerhouse
and
shapes our world.
Sometimes it's CGI. I'm not sure if I can even remember which is which now. So that's
The
a real
sun.
image, I believe.
A giant nuclear reactor, 1 million times bigger than Earth. Its
And that is the
influence
CGI
extends
that
to the furthest regions of
CGI
the
was
solar
this
system. It supports all life and protects
That's
us
real?
from a harsh galaxy.
The basic building block of the universe is a star. And the
That's
sun
not
is
real.
a star. The more we know about the sun, the more we could learn about the universe itself.
All of the energy in my
not
body
real, I
that I'm
think.
using to speak and to move originally comes from the sun.
The sun
Not
giveth
real, I think.
and the sun taketh away. So the sun gives us life, it sustains us, it protects us, but it can also wipe us out in an instant.
The sun is more than a ball of gas. It's a complex engine. The outside is an ocean of roiling plasma. Below that
So this is where we had to get the scientists to tell us
is a
what
bright layer dotted
what
with
on earth
dark
might be
and
inside the
violent
sun.
sunspots. 120,000 miles deeper, plasma swirls in giant vortices, pushing the sun's heat to the surface. Down in the core,
And that
a
sound,
nuclear furnace
that
produces the energy of
sound
100
is,
billion tons of dynamite
what our sound designer,
every second.
having spoken to someone who studies the sun, thought that the inside of the
All these
sun
layers
sounds like.
work together to make a colossal cosmic engine that powers life on Earth.
So, and then the one other show that I was going to tell you about was an engineering show called Rise of the Machines, where we took massive machines. So we had an Airbus 380, we had this massive mining truck, which is, I think, the biggest mining truck in the world. The wheels are like here. We had a heavy lift ship that carries oil rigs around the world. And what we wanted to do was film them in real life and then, in the middle of a shot, just explode them apart into a million pieces and fly around inside them and show you how they work. Now, we had not a very big... In Transformers, they have loads of money to do that kind of stuff. We had not very much money to do that kind of stuff, so we sort of figured it out as we went along. And we started with these sort of storyboards of our ideas. What we did then was we sort of wrote a script and we looked at, so what's the most interesting bit of this truck that I might want to fly around? Should I be able to work out how to fly around the inside of it? So the column here is the script that you'd eventually hear in the voiceover. So built from X thousand components. This, and then it's like, yeah, this is what the truck will be. Then it will explode apart. Boom. The prototype for this new generation. Boom. We'll do this. And so that's you kind of, you're working out the path that you want your camera to take in terms of what's the interesting science story, what is the way that the engineering works, and what direction of camera do I want to take me on a tour through that machine. Now, the tricky bit then is, how am I going to build this machine? So what we did was, again, we went back to the real data. So we went to Liebherr in Germany, who make the enormous mega truck with the wheels this big, and we got them to give us their original CAD files for absolutely everything, including every nut and bolt and everything on the inside of the engine, the wheels, the cab, everything. And we gave that to our very clever CGI guys, and they plugged that into their complicated computer that I don't know how it works. And we told them the path that we wanted the camera to follow to tell our story that we'd figured out how we wanted it to go. And they come up with this, which, as I think you'll see, doesn't look like television yet. Also, the black holes are the bits where they've not really done it yet. And we've given them the voiceover, which is the guy who sits next to me in the office reading out the script, just to give them the timings of how we want this to go, basically.
The Liebherr T284, also known as the Megatruck. Built from thousands of components, it's the prototype for a new generation. Part freight train, part container ship, part power station. This Titanic truck is designed for one thing: shifting 400 tons of rock in a single load.
So, kind of cool looking, but doesn't look like a truck exploding apart, right? So, then, how do you make it look real? So, there's several elements to that. Firstly, textures and colors. So, when we go on our shoot, so in this case, the shoot was on a big gold mine in Nevada, and we took photographs of every single bit of the truck, so every bit of yellow paint, every bit of the tires, and we gave all those to the graphics company, and that's what they used to paint onto that CAD model that they've got. We also filmed for them what we call the plates. So you'll see there's a shot of the truck coming out of the garage, and we would film the real truck coming out of the real garage with the men guiding the truck out, and then we would film exactly the same thing again, but no truck. So completely empty space with a garage, still men doing this, but no truck. And then the clever graphics people import their truck, the CGI truck, into the garage. And then they can explode it apart and go wherever they want. But there's no point really having the truck being real if the environment that it's in isn't real. So what you have to do then is, you've got a shot, but that's just two-dimensional, right? If you want to fly around inside it, you need a three-dimensional picture. So that was where we used this little clever gadget, it's called a theta. It is some kind of consumer device, but what anyone else uses it for, I have no idea. So what we would do is we would put this in the middle of where the truck would be, then we all disappear out of the way, and what this does is it takes a 360, it's a fisheye lens that kind of basically covers floor to ceiling, and it takes a 360 of everything around you. So you've basically got the inside of a sphere that it's taken pictures of. It also takes them in HDR, high dynamic range. So you have every level of exposure above where you want it to be and below where you want it to be, so you can have any level of exposure that you want. And that is the environment that we put our CGI asset into. And then the final thing for making it look real is actually in the editing. So what we wanted to achieve was making it look like the truck explodes, but while it's still moving. Graphics people don't like doing that because it's very complicated. So what we did, and what you'll see in this, is we filmed lots of shots of the real truck coming out of the real garage, and you see 3 shots of that, and your brain thinks, yeah, I know what that truck's doing. It's coming out of this garage, it's moving forward, it's going over there, there's this man doing this. And then the very final shot, only 12 frames, so less than half a second before the truck explodes, they sneakily replace the real truck with the CGI truck, and then you can explode it. So here is the all the bells and whistles version.
For ordinary trucks, this goal on this deadline under these conditions would be mission impossible. So the mine will fire up 240,000 kilos of metal muscle. The Liebherr T284. 8 meters tall, this $5.5 million colossus is a new super breed of haul truck, the largest on the planet.
Real truck, oh, it's exploded.
Built from 50,000 components.
So the other thing,
this flagship of the Cortez Hills fleet is at the pinnacle of truck design.
So as we fly around it now,
Her
This is the
4,000
reflections.
horsepower engine has the pull of a freight train.
All of this is based on what we got from here.
At full
So
capacity.
it's reflecting back the real sky.
Her
the
3
real
megawatt
garage.
generator could light up a whole town. On her back, the dump bed could carry up to 360,000 kilos, the weight of a jumbo jet. This megatruck was built for just one purpose: hauling more rock than any other machine.
So that is a Megatruck. So now, finally, so my current job, the RI Christmas Lectures, we have no money for graphics at all. Everything has to be real. But what I've discovered with this, and what I'm very much looking forward to, is sometimes when you have no graphics, all you need is something that goes bang. So we will finish with a classic.
Chemistry
RI
gives
demo
us an
that goes bang.
understanding of the world that the other sciences just don't. It's all about how one substance interacts with another to give us something new. Thank you. Take this Christmas tree here, for instance. A nice, solid structure. But watch what happens when I do this.
Thank you very much indeed.